Hello from Yes Queen channel. Thank you very much for watching our channel, and in today's video I would like to share some tips on how to master different languages on conversation level. So Japan is a very monolingual country, like all the academic resources can be like read in Japanese, and all like so many literatures are written in Japanese. So like it's very common that Japanese people only speak one language, which is Japanese. So some people often ask me, why do I speak different languages? And I used to live in Ireland, but I think people can learn to speak different languages even without living in different countries. So I would like to share some tips. So I myself, I speak Japanese and English, no problem, I hope. And I speak Spanish and Portuguese very little. So 日本語を話します。I speak English, hablo español, falo português, mais pouco. Yes. And I work as a consultant, but like when I have some spare time, I teach English to my girlfriend, and also I actually get paid for teaching English and Japanese to some students online, and also like face to face. So based on my experience, of like teaching languages, I would like to share some tips. And like before I share some tips, there are some opinions about learning languages, so I would like to clear that first. So first of all, some people say that now technology is evolving, so electronic devices can translate or interpret things, so we don't need to learn new languages because the technology can't do it all. And like I do agree it's very convenient, but I still think it's very beneficial that without depending on any technology, like you can get access to like loads of information, or like you can communicate with like loads of people. Like I think these kind of things, like having loads of information available to you, like having more information available to you, and being able to communicate with like a lot of people, I think that would like broaden your world. I think you can get a better and bigger point of view. So I think that's still very, very beneficial. And also how to learn language can like vary according to like the age or like the level you want. So like I know that like for little children, I think it's better for them to like start learning with their ears, because when we're like very small, like we learn by ears, and we just learn what we hear, we absorb it, and we just make it ours. That's why like all the babies can speak their native languages, because they listen to their family and they copy it. So but like after some certain age, when they already have their native language established within themselves, I sometimes read or hear that like we actually should learn some like basic grammar of different languages, because we already have this native language built in. So if you want to like learn some new languages, basic grammar is very important. So, and also like about the level of the language, of course, like the way to approach the language can be very different. If you want to just want to be able to communicate with someone on a conversation level, or like if you actually need to learn some language on like a business level, it's very different. But like today I'm going to like share some tips on conversation level language. Of course, because there will be some different approaches required for a business level language. Anyways, what I'm gonna share today sounds very basic, but they're very vital. So like if you just like focus on these three things, I think it'll be a lot better for you to like master different languages. So I'm gonna start. So like number one is of course like input. You listen to new languages, like you listen to something, you read something, by doing all of this, you get more vocabularies or phrases in the different languages. So my nose is itchy. Yeah, so how to like increase the input, for example, like you can listen to like your favorite singers and repeat their lyrics, even without understanding the meaning, first of all, So like when I was a child, my parents loved like Cyndi Lauper, Queen, David Bowie, Roxy Music, and all this like amazing music. So I mean, without even thinking, I used to copy them, So so English became like a part of me. And then of course after that I started listening to like Britney Spears or Pink. I love Pink, she's so perfect. Yeah, so I mean, like every time like now, like of course like when I listen to English songs, I mean I understand the meaning, but like when I was a child, even without understanding the meaning, I just repeated what they're singing, So then in that way I get more like vocabularies and phrases, without, like I mean unconsciously. So I think it helped me to like, kind of like absorb the whole English thingy. Yes. And also if you're more like a movie person, then you can like go to the theater, or like you can enjoy your Netflix, and yeah, like in that way as well, like especially like if you have like subtitles in your language or in the original language, you can get more vocabularies, and also like you can read books in original language. So I mean I think it'll be helpful if you start with something that you're already familiar with. So for example, let's say you love Harry Potter and you already know the whole story. So, I mean, when you watch Harry Potter movie, you can watch it without subtitles, or you can watch it with English subtitles. So, like I think it'll be more like helpful to learn English. Or like you can even read English books, or like any books in like written in that original language. So I think I recommend you to like start with something that you're already familiar with. So even without the help of subtitles or dictionary, you can understand the story. Yeah. So input, input, and inputs. Yes. And next one is, of course, now I talked about inputs, so I'm going to talk about the output. Very, very important. So once you learn something, I mean, it's not just about the language, anything, cooking or playing sports or anything, like keep repeating it, keep using it, so it can be part of you, make it yours, I mean, I have a very good example, story of my life. So I mean, I'm Japanese, and I speak Japanese, but I mean, I went to Ireland, I moved to Ireland, by myself, and yes, like sometimes I talk to my family or friends through Skype, but like all the time I was just like using English most of the whole time. So by the time I was leaving Ireland, I had to call the Japanese postal system, because I had to ship some stuff to Japan. And then, I was expecting the speaker to speak English. So like I was like, and I was like, hello, and she was like, konnichiwa, and I was like, oh my god, she speaks Japanese, and she just started like saying something very like, professional, like logistics thingy, and I was like, oh my god, I don't understand, please, so like, I mean, even like for me, like native Japanese speaker, I mean, it's so easy to like just lose the language, and then, like, I mean, and then after some time, again, another story of mine, so I went to Brazil, and I stayed there for 3 months. Amazing country, amazing people. I love Brazil. So good, so amazing. Yes. Back to the story. Like when I think I was in São Paulo at the time, I thought it was like, okay, I think it'll be interesting to do some like NPR NGO activities. So maybe like, if I go to like Japanese embassy, maybe they can give me some tips. So I went there, and I was like, hey, I'm from Japan, this is why I'm here, very friendly and everything. But then like all these like public officers, like very, like straight face, they just started talking to me in Japanese, and I was like, oh my god, please, like, I mean, at that time I was already back in Japan for like 2 years. I was in Japanese in like the University of Tokyo, like studying for a master's degree. But I lost it, I mean, I think that probably like the reason is because, the time I was in Brazil, I was using English and Spanish to communicate with Brazilian people, and I was also learning Portuguese from these amazing local friendly people. So I didn't use Japanese at all, you know. I mean, sometimes, you know, again, when I was like communicating with my family or friends, but that's it. So, I mean, my brain wasn't used to Japanese. So then again, I got panicked with the Japanese, although I'm Japanese and I'm a native speaker of Japanese. So, I mean, repeating things is very important, you know. And nowadays my concern is that, you know, like, I mean, I don't really use Spanish or Portuguese at all in my daily life, so I am losing it. So that's my concern. Yeah. So my last advice is that make sure like to think in that language, you know. I mean, like when I teach languages to students, I often tell them, you know, please don't translate into your language. You know, just when you're communicating with me in that language, please stick your head to that language, you know. So, I mean, there are two main reasons why I ask them to do so, you know. For example, okay, let's make it an example so it'll be easier for you to understand. So let's say I'm teaching you English, okay? No. I am teaching you Japanese in English, okay? Me teaching you Japanese in English language, okay? So let's say we are trying to communicate with each other in Japanese, okay? And I ask you questions in Japanese, and I want you to think and answer in Japanese. And why do I want you to do that is because, you know, let's say, I mean, in English, you have a huge amount of vocabularies in you, you know? But now you're just, like, you're about to learn Japanese. The amount of the Japanese vocabularies or phrases that you have is like this much, you know? So, I mean, if you want to like perfectly translate what you think in English, it's almost impossible because the amount of the knowledge that you have for like, you know, these languages are very different. That's why, you know, like, I mean, it's almost impossible. So like, you know, that's why I'm saying a simple answer is always good, you know. Just think in Japanese and answer to me in Japanese. And also like another reason why I don't like want my students to think in their native language, because, you know, it's very time consuming, you know. So let's say I talk to you in Japanese, first step, you know, like first step, and then you translate my Japanese into English, next step, and then you think in English, another step, and then you translate what you thought in English into Japanese, next step, and then you tell me, you know. So it's very time consuming. And, you know, I mean, sometimes we need some pause because, you know, especially when we are discussing things, you know, sometimes we pause and think. Yes, I mean, that's very natural. But let's say we are communicating, and every time I ask you something and you pause all the time, then it gets very difficult for me to, like, you know, focus. I get distracted if there are so many pauses, you know. That's why I ask them to, you know, like, just get used to thinking in that language that you are trying to learn. So yeah, so these are my tips. So yeah, so like, I mean, you know, make sure like you listen to like loads of music, or like, you know, I mean, increase the amount of input and increase the amount of output, and like get used to like, you know, thinking in that new language. So these are my tips, and if you have any other tips, please share with me. So thank you very much for watching our video, and please like the video. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. So see you very soon, and bye.